One of the biggest challenges that many face is that when the environment changes, while in the madrasa environment makes it very much more easier to do what is meant to be done, to stay away from what is to be refrained from. When the environment changes, person is no more in the fortress of the madrasa, then the attacks of Shaytan and nafs seem to get very, very severe, and many a person then finds himself in a situation which we claim that has become overwhelming, which we couldn't protect ourselves from. So to start off with, that is a deception of Shaytan, that a person feels that I cannot restrain myself from a certain aspect. If a person can do something, then he can also not do it. This is a accepted principle, that if a person can do something, then he can also not do it. If a person cannot do something, then he won't be able to do either way. A person is blind, so he can't see, so he cannot see, you cannot ask him to see. But if he is able to see, you can ask him not to look, then he can close his eyes. So if a person is able to do something, he is able to refrain from it as well. That is nevertheless a deception of Shaitan, that a person feels, I am unable to do this. Then if a person thinks about it, what he thought he was unable to refrain from, unable to restrain himself from, at that moment, if his ustad, his sheikh, some senior, his parent was there at that moment, would he be able to refrain from it or not? Then suddenly he is able to refrain from it, which shows that he is able to refrain. But he is able to refrain from the fear of some ustad, some parent, some elder, senior. So the fear of Allah Ta'ala hasn't come in the heart, and the consciousness of Allah Ta'ala hasn't come in the heart to the extent that it should be there, as a result of which, when he believes in his mind, or he forgets rather, the other way around, that somebody is watching. He forgets he is being watched, and Allah Ta'ala is aware, so now he then does what he wants to do. But had he been as conscious of the fact that when some person is there, that more than that person, Allah Ta'ala is aware. That person might be standing right there, and he might be still in a daze, he doesn't know what's going on around him. But Allah Ta'ala is forever aware of everything a person is doing. So that consciousnness hasn't built up to the point that it should be, as a result of which a person now then thinks, now I'm alone. He looks behind his shoulder, he doesn't see anybody, so he feels, well, now I can go about it, whatever I want to do. So the thing that we have to ponder about is that we have the ability to do what we are supposed to do. We have the ability to refrain from what we are supposed to refrain from. The consciousness of Allah Ta'ala has to be developed. One of the very practical and easy ways to overcome these situations, when nafs and shaitan become very strong against a person, and this is the bottom line, that there is no shortcut to get to the destination. A person is going to have to make the mujahada that is necessary. He's going to have to undertake the steps that are necessary. A person feels that I must reach the destination, but I must not go through all the procedures. He wants to fly to a certain place, he doesn't want to go through the immigration, the customs, he doesn't want to check his things out, he doesn't want to do any of the procedures. So even though this aircraft can reach there in a short time, he won't get anywhere. He has to fulfill the procedures. And if it's a road that he has to travel, then he has to go through the road. So likewise, there is no shortcut here. He will have to make the mujahada that's necessary and take the necessary steps. So one very simple, practical, easy to fulfill, but yes, it requires commitment. It requires determination to do it. That a person commits himself. Whatever I will do, I will note it down. For the entire duration of the holiday, whatever I will do that is not meant to be done, I will note it down, and when I get back, I will show it to my ustad, I will show it to whoever I take my mashwara from, that this is what I have done. Now, if he is committed to that, that itself will become one of the biggest restraining factors, that whenever shaitan and nafs are dragging in a direction, that will become the barrier. That I don't want to be showing such things on that note that I will make, that I did this and that. I don't have the courage to do that. So initially it will be something that a person is refraining from out of fear of insan. But that gradually will build up into that. Why is he fearing insan? Because this, whatever, that relationship based on deen, that will become a means of him becoming more conscious of Allah Ta'ala. That just as I'm refraining from this because of insan, to a greater extent I should be conscious of Allah Ta'ala and refrain from things whether insan come to know about it or not. Allah Ta'ala is aware of it. If a person commits himself to that I will keep a notebook in my pocket, anything that comes out of line I'm going to write it down and I'm then going to show it. So if that is something he commits himself to, inshallah that will become a very big barrier between him and sin. But the main thing is to develop the consciousness of Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala is aware, Allah Ta'ala is all-knowing, all-seeing, and He has greater power than all the makhluk put together. You might be afraid of the consequences from an ustad, from some elder, from some parent, but they are also humans like us. They are also limited. Allah Ta'ala has total qudrat. Allah Ta'ala has total power. So if you are afraid of insan, then insan are nevertheless limited. They cannot do anything much. But Allah Ta'ala can make us paralyzed in that moment, can blind us in that moment. It is His grace, it is His mercy that He does not bring about such a calamity on us. So this grace and mercy must not be abused. Must not think that this is rope to do what we want. Rather, this is something to be appreciated and to make an effort to keep ourselves in the obedience of Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala gives.
अल्लाह अल्लाह कैसा प्यारा नाम है, आशिकों का मीना और जाम है।